Thank you guys for being here. I just got off the practice field. Looking back on this past Saturday, just really proud of the resiliency of the guys. They battled and they found a way to finish and found a way to win the game and to continue to prove that they're all in. And so proud of that effort. Immediately on a short week, have to turn the focus to Rice. Coming back in Sunday morning, learn from the USF film and great focus on a great opponent on the road on a short week on a Friday night versus a team that runs a unique triple option gun offense and very, very sound on defense, and they're very well coached. So we're going to have to be our absolute best and have a great week of preparation.
What are the challenges of the short week, especially when it is a road game like this, and just what changes for your preparation?
Yeah, first off, today in my mind, you couldn't tell me different. Today's a Tuesday. You know, I kind of just moved the whole week back. Yesterday was a modified Sunday, Monday. And more than anything, you know, for the players, right? Their body's got to bounce back from it. You know, when I coached in the NFL, we'd have Sunday games and then have to turn around and play a Thursday game. And with those guys, obviously the physicality of the game, those are quick turnarounds. Obviously, this is not to that extreme, but finding ways to, you know, how do we get through practice without wearing them down? You know, we didn't do a walkthrough yesterday or anything of that nature, or even on, you know, what I would call a normal Sunday. So they're just rolling right out to it, and we went out there in full pads. But also got to make sure their legs are fresh, and so they can be full speed come Friday night. The physical aspect more than anything, the mental just kind of get caught up. Obviously, the uniqueness of playing this offense at Rice presents. It's something, you know, obviously we saw some of that from Navy last year, but they've obviously had a lot of success doing so. And ultimately just getting the guys to, hey, what happened on Saturday morning was great, but quickly we've got to turn the page.
Coach, how does it vary from Navy, if it varies at all?
Yeah, both offenses, it starts with the quarterback. You know, Rice has done a great job of just continuing to find different elements of different things. You know, Navy has thrown the ball a little bit more, I believe, this year and even last year in the past than Rice is doing. I've got a lot of respect for the head coach at Rice. You know, he goes back to coaching the ODAC at Washington Lee when he was the head coach at there. And, you know, obviously when I was at Hampton-Sydney, coached against WNL, and he was a head coach where my brother and my dad went to college. And then, you know, I faced Davidson when I was at Jacksonville University, so I've kind of got a long history of knowing this head coach. And they do a variety of different things. And like a lot of teams, you know, as we well know, Greg, there'll be some tricks up their sleeves, and so we got to be ready for that. But there's similar elements. You know, we've got to learn from last year's Navy film. But, you know, for a lot of our guys, it's a whole new defense other than Wayne Whitlow. So just showing these guys, hey, here's how we have to better approach this.
Coach, is it possible to coach the human nature out of them as opposed to, well, the UAB game may have done that for you going into this game today?
Yeah, you know, Jarvis, we had talked about that even after the UAB game, that the human nature, again, I thought we had a great preparation and a great week of practice and focus. Clearly, the execution didn't last, and I hate to talk about the previous game from a couple weeks ago. It's the last thing on my mind, and I just encourage the guys to have great attention to detail, right, from the rest of today when they come in and hopefully take care of their bodies, handling their academics, and then, man, we'll come back this afternoon and really study the film on Rice and be great, because this game is the most important game of the season, and I want our guys to sense that. No different than we do every single week. Our goal is to go 1-0 this week, one day at a time, and ultimately find a way to win a football game on the road versus a great conference opponent that's much improved, like a lot of the other teams in our conference, on Friday night on national television. And so the guys have been great with that. We just got to go out there and execute at a high level.
I actually just asked the game in terms of the passing. But what does it say about the offense to be able to pivot in what you guys have been doing well for those first 6 games in terms of the running, but then to be able to do it through the air a little bit more? Yeah,
Frank, great question. I think, you know, ultimately we want to be balanced on offense, right, and have the ability to do both. If a team is going to do a good job of taking away the one run game, obviously we saw South Florida pressured more than they ever had, like we discussed post-game. So then as the game went on, it allowed for more areas in the zone coverage and the ability to win some one-on-ones versus man coverage. And so ultimately, you know, you don't want to always just sit there and say, hey, we're going to take what the defense gives us. But as games go on, you got to figure out what they're ultimately trying to do and how can you attack that. And so being able to put together a passing attack, especially in the second half, was huge. It shows that we're capable of doing it at a high level and executing at a high level. look, we still want to be able to line up and run the football effectively. It doesn't matter what they're doing or how they're doing it. We should have answers for all of that stuff. So that's something as coaches, we got to put our guys in better positions to have success, but be as well balanced as we possibly can.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you concerned about the run game the last 2 weeks not looking like it did in the first 6 weeks, or is it just situational?
Well, 2 weeks ago, you asked me if I was concerned about the pass game. No, so if we go pass for 500 yards, you can ask me about the run game. If we go run 500 yards this week, you'll say, "Hey, what's wrong with the pass game?" Look, we've got to improve. Absolutely, I don't think it was up to our standard of the expectation the way we've been able to run the football. And I put the blame ultimately on me to put our guys in better positions. The offensive line has to play better. I don't think the offensive line had their best game, especially this past game, or the past 2 games, for that matter. And the running backs got to do a better job of hitting the holes. Tight end blocking has been below average, and the receivers got to do their job on the perimeter. So all that being said, yeah, we got a lot of collective work to do to get the running game back on track.
Going back to Saturday's game, the fans were unhappy with some of the injuries that USF had. Coach Golish, after the game, said he's never seen these fans boo injuries. I'm just curious what you saw on the field when that was going on.
Sure. First off, I'm always going to back our fans. I'm not a fool on that one. So whatever our fans do, whether they were cheering when we were offense and go Tigers go. Look, I don't know exactly what happened. Obviously, I care about the safety of all players involved. When I think about the teams that take the field, you want everybody to come out safe and healthy, whether it's our players or the opponents. And so I can't sit here and judge what's going on. But whatever our fans do, as long as it's within the rules of the game and good sportsmanship, I always will support our fans.
Do you think that, obviously that's been like an emphasis coming into this year with the injuries and slowing down the game, do you think that those rules with the timeouts, have you seen anything in terms of like if that's been productive or how that's going to go?
Yeah, I know it's discussed, and we discuss it as a conference. We've discussed it in our last head coaches meetings. We get videos that are sent to us in accordance with the Big 12, who we work with our officiating crews. So there's things that are educational that we'll see. They'll send things, hey, this is against the rules. I read somewhere school got fined some money for the feigning injuries, but it's nothing we teach here. It does me no good to address it with officials. If I think it's something happened, the officials do a great job, and I expect them to continue to do it so at a high level, and I got a lot of respect for the people who do it in this conference.
You talked about Rice's offense with the wishbone, whatever it is that they run. What about their defense? Is their defense improved from what we saw a year ago?
Yeah, it's really sound. I mean, the one thing about them, they're always going to be in the spots they need to be. And you look at it, they just, at home, they beat UConn, that had gone on the road and beat an ACC opponent. UConn had. UConn took Syracuse to double overtime at Syracuse. And then I thought Rice's defense played very, very well, especially since that UConn quarterback had not thrown an interception. And they just played really sound. They played really hard. And Jarvis, that's one of the things about it. Like sometimes, again, going to the South Florida game, I said, this is what they're showing, and then they did something completely different, right? I'm sure there'll be some wrinkles, just like I was discussing with their offense. They'll have to see, but they're very, very well coached. Their D coordinator was a long-time head high school coach in the Houston area, very, very successful. He'd been part of the previous staff, and we know we had some challenges last year when we faced Rice on defense.
You had the number next to your name going into Birmingham. South Florida had the number next to their name going into Memphis. Now you got the number again going into Houston to play Rice. What is it about being a ranked team for that opposing team when they're ready to face you, especially when they're ready to face you at home,
Sure.
that they step up their game?
Yeah, we're going to get everybody's best shot. And Greg, that's a credit to, like I always say, the people before us and the players and everybody that every time we take the field, we know whoever our opponent is, we're going to get their absolute best. And that's a credit to where we've gotten this program, right? Whether there's a number beside in a ranking, people are gunning for Memphis, and people want to try to knock us off. And you're always, every opponent you play, for sure. But the opponents are going to continue to come out swinging. And so we can't worry about what numbers beside us, whatever. And I kind of like I told our guys at halftime of this game, I said, really, I want to strain, I want to fight, and I want to finish, okay? One play at a time. And let's just keep our heads down. I don't want anybody looking at the damn scoreboard. I'll let you guys know the situation of the game. I'll let you guys know what the clock is, what that looks like timeout-wise. But every single person, I even told the coaches, like, let's just strain, fight, and finish one play at a time. And then we'll look up when the clock strikes double zeros and we can see where we're at, and I bet we're going to be really happy. And I want our guys to have that same mindset with practice today, with going into the game on Friday night, just to have that mentality. Like, it doesn't matter where we're ranked, we're going to get everybody's best, and that's a credit to where we've been able to position this program.
So you got some road dogs on this team, guys that just love playing in like enemy territory.
Look, there's no place like home. I mean, you know me. I'm trying to convince the conference to let us play all the games here at at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, because it's been good to us. But going on the road does present some challenges. I think sometimes, we have some guys obviously from the Houston area that will be excited to go back and play in front of their home crowds and people and their families and their loved ones. We've had success recruiting that area as well. But Jarvis, I think most of our guys, if 99.9% would say, hey, let's just play at home. It's great. There's some comfort in staying in similar deals, understanding where your locker's at. I have not coached at Rice ever. I was coaching at Central Florida a long time ago in Old Conference USA. They came to us, so I've never coached at their place. I had a great relationship with their previous head coach, Mike Bloomgren. But going on the road, no. I think we'd all rather stay at home.
Coach, Rice's offense, they don't turn the ball over, and they control time of possession. So how important do you think it is to kind of start off strong and not let that sort of like the first half of UAB where you end up not having the ball kind of happen again?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So you've done your research. Obviously, they're a top 20 team in the country in time of possession. They've only had 4 turnovers, which, man, that's a tough deal, right? I think 2 fumbles or 3 fumbles and a pick. At least their starting quarterback's only thrown 1 interception. And so that's a challenge, especially when you're playing this type of offense. It's not the Navy of a couple years ago where it may be 45 minutes and you may never see it, and you're on the sideline. But you're exactly right. You got to keep the guys in the right mindset. Whether even the game you're referring to, right, the explosive special teams play, it was still our quarterback hadn't thrown a pass until there's 2 minutes left in the first quarter. So keeping those guys in rhythm, understanding the ebbs and flows of the game. Sometimes that happens if there's a quick turnover or takeaway, but ultimately just telling our guys to stay in it and trust it. And, we've shown that we're generally a 4-quarter team throughout the season. Obviously, we fell short in one of them with some critical errors and self-inflicted wounds. Then ultimately, whenever we have the opportunity to take the field as an offense, that we're being very, very efficient.
The fourth quarter, you mentioned 4 quarters, but the fourth quarter has been really good to you this season. What is it about that's kind of feels like every game it just works?
Jonah, I got asked this previously, like what makes us so good towards the end of the season, at the end of games? Is it because of our conditioning? Is it the way we work, the way we practice? I believe some of that ultimately has something. I mean, I want to hang our hat on knowing that we are one of the hardest working teams in college football. And every head coach is going to tell you, we work hard. We train hard in June and we grind during training camp. Every head coach is going to tell you that. But I firmly believe that the way we work, the way we approach it every single day is going to allow us to have success in the fourth quarter. The way we're conditioning, some of the depth, and then more than anything, like the Arkansas game and the South Florida game, is there's no quitting our guys. They're a gritty bunch of dudes that love ball, that there's no woe is me. I mean, they believe. They love playing for each other, and they love playing for this university. So, I mean, that's not coach speak. Like, I think it has a direct reflection of our guys. Like, all right, another team may feel like they got momentum. I don't think we let momentum affect us. I truly don't, which is so unique when you're dealing with 17 to 23-year-olds. Like, they just got the right mindset and approach to, hey, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep swinging, put our head down. And I think that's allowed us to have some success towards the end of games.